This is my game Lumberjump, a hardcore platformer where you only control the jumping, but it has one huge problem, and now everything is going to change. So this huge problem lies within the story, but obviously to explain that, you need to know what the story is. So, Act 1, Lumber and the Fire. Our little lumberjack character Lumber is out one day collecting wood, and with a rumble in the air he rushes home to find it on fire as a dragon flies away into the mountains above. Act 2, Lumber and the Wizard. In a state of rage, Lumber goes after the dragon, and on his adventure, he meets a wizard. So this is all I've revealed so far on this channel, but there are two more parts to this story. Act 3, Lumber and the Dragon Trials. And Act 4, Lumber and the Dragon, which fully completes this story. But the huge problem I've got is, the story doesn't really match the game I'm making. My idea for the game timeline was to only show Acts 1 to 2, where you meet the wizard. You'd start at the woods, make your way through the mountains, up through the clouds, and then to the wizard's tower. Then what happens? You just meet the wizard? That's the end of the game? To me, it feels a little bit anticlimactic. You just beat all of these difficult platforming challenges after falling over and over again, and that's the ending? Really? I originally thought that I could figure this out later. So I kept working on the game, and I even made a devlog about it, which I got loads of great feedback and comments on. Thank you very much for that. Someone in the comments gave me some feedback about the name, which I already knew was a problem. Lumberjump. Let's assume you know nothing about the character, nothing about the story. What would you search for? You'd probably search lumber jump, right? And lumber as in wood. Well, the game has nothing to do with wood, which is a problem. So if you were to search it, you probably wouldn't find it. And your expectations might be different because maybe you're expecting jumping logs or something. It doesn't really match the game. So I thought, right, okay, I better figure this out. And in order to do that, I need to deep dive into the story to try and find the best name for the game. And this is when later arrived. I've had so many problems trying to figure this out. This deep dive into the story and the name and the game together has just given me more and more questions that need to be answered. And I've found actually that my one big problem is now three big problems. Problem number one is the motivation. When I look at some of my favorite games, there's always some sort of motivating factor that helps drive you to finish the game or to complete it or to play it or whatever. Like Super Mario, for example, save the princess. And Jump King, there's a smoking hot babe at the top, kind of like this babe. Why does Lumber want to reach the top and get to the wizard's tower? Is it just to see where the dragons went? It seems kind of underwhelming for motivation, like play this game and you can find out where a dragon went. But anyway, let's move on to problem 2, which is the resolution. You know, when you actually reach the top, what happens? In some games you have an epic boss fight, you save the princess, or you get the smoking hot babe or whatever. But in my game, I kind of had the idea that you just meet the wizard, and the wizard would just, I don't know, help you, I guess. I mean, there's a bunch of scenarios that could happen. The wizard is good, maybe he's helpful, maybe funny, or maybe he was expecting an Amazon delivery driver or something instead. Either way, it's another problem. So let's move on to the third problem, which I think is the identity. Does the story match the game mechanics? Why is Lumber always moving? I guess you could explain it by saying maybe he's angry that his house is on fire, so he just can't stop till he gets the top. And where did Lumber's axe go? Why can't you chop things? He is a lumberjack after all. Did he just drop it when he saw his house on fire? Did it burn? Maybe? Look, those are my three main problems, and I think my concerns could be answered, right? And trust me, I've been trying to answer them for weeks now. I've been trying to come up with some sort of solution that makes the story in the game feel complete. But instead, it really just feels like this story is full of cracks and holes. It makes it feel very weak in the context of the game mechanics. And I think I know why. I'm basically trying to merge a story idea that I've got with a game idea that I've got, when they really just don't work well together. And like a struggling relationship, to get it to work, there has to be a compromise. But because I love both of these things individually, I'm finding it really difficult to want to compromise on either of them, kind of out of fear that I might make one of them worse. So I think they have to break up. But fortunately, there's a new guy in town. A while ago, I was working with my friend on a game and I pitched him a story idea I had, which I was super passionate about. But we didn't use it and ended up going in a different direction. Something to do with squirrel nuts. Not those nuts. And eventually we abandoned that project altogether. But that story about this character has stuck in my mind ever since. And it matches with the game mechanics that I've got. So maybe I should use that story. And, if it doesn't work, I can always just go back to the lumber story and patch up the holes. Or try to. But little did I know, it would go so well. I started with translating the character design into pixel art. I love the little details of this little plant pot character. Then I roughed out all of the levels based on the story idea. No ending spoilers, of course. I gathered a bunch of reference for an abandoned lab setting before creating a very rough concept of the scenery in a sort of rusty lab with a skeleton scientist. This isn't finished and will change, but I wanted to get a loose idea. Inspired by the story idea, I did some more level design and even added a new level mechanic. After fixing the bugs that came with it, I made some really challenging platforming sections with it, which has some very harsh punishments. To get this new idea to the same point as where I was with Lumber's story, all I had left to do was animate the character, which, after some trials and redoing, I got the basic idle, running, jumping, falling, and splat animations done and in the game. This wasn't without its problems and challenges, but the more I develop this idea, the better it gets, and it feels solid. I don't want to reveal everything about the story just yet, but just know that it solves all of my 3 problems. The motivation: if you reach the top, you save the world. The resolution? Well, I'm not going to spoil the ending, obviously, but my idea is a complete story. And the identity? Well, I think it matches the game mechanics perfectly, but I guess you can be the judge of that when I reveal more. This is Plantfall. Yeah, you get it? Because you're a plant and you fall. Even the name makes sense. But what does that mean about lumber? There's a saying in creation or writing: kill your darlings. And it means to be comfortable letting go of stories, ideas, and characters that you are emotionally attached to for the sake of creating something even better. So I guess I'm not using lumber for this game, and that's why this has been a super difficult decision for me. I want to get to the end of it and get that dragon just as much as I know some of you do. But I hope you can trust me on this one. I've got a gut feeling that this is what's best for the game and what's best for the lumber story. Part of the reason I built this rig and illustrated some parts of the video like this was because I am practicing. I think telling Lumber's story in a comic or animation would work way better. I can fully explore the world without the constraints of game mechanics that don't work with it or make it worse. But that's for the future. Let me know what you think about it anyway. I do hope you're excited to find out more about this new character and story. And if you're interested, you can wishlist the game now on Steam. Oh, and one more thing. This character needs a name. Any ideas?